Hey, everybody, and welcome back to For the Booze.
For the Booze, very special episode.
That's right.
The Halloween episode.
Yeah.
And I've
so
had this location picked out for
a while.
A couple months now.
A while, yeah.
This is going to be a longer story. Maybe, I don't know. It just depends on how fast we get through it.
Yeah.
But it's packed with some
exciting things.
Some stuff. Some stuff. But we have a listener story.
We do.
It has been so long.
I'm so excited.
This one comes out from Eric Belial, one of our magnificent Patreons.
That's right.
And Eric says, "Hey guys, been looking at a lot of real estate lately with my son, and it must have triggered this memory from 25 plus years ago. Recently married and looking for our forever home. My first wife and I found this great, young, enthusiastic real estate agent after several that just were quite lackluster. No enthusiasm, barely breathing it seemed. She called us early Saturday morning and wanted to show us this house that met all of our criteria and was priced well below market even for the time. We met late in the afternoon on a November weekend in New Hampshire, a couple hours worth of light at play. The house was different. I had never seen a layout like it before. 3 stories centered around a central staircase, not quite a 4 square, but similar. We all arrived, exchanged pleasantries, and entered the home on street level, which would be the 2nd floor. That is very strange.
Yeah.
Nothing unusual. Kitchen, dining, very ample-sized living room. Now, when you enter the front door, where is a stairwell directly in front of you to access the 3rd floor, and if you go around the floor, the staircase to the bottom level is on the opposite side of that. Toured the floor, standard stuff, and decided to go upstairs and tour the bedrooms. Hit the 2nd bedroom, and my wife grabbed my arm. "Did you hear that?" Before I could respond, the agent said, "There is someone in the kitchen." What followed was a few minutes of cupboard slamming, boot-like stomping, and breaking dishes. I looked through all the cabinets. No dishes were left behind. The agent shook, said, "Stay here a sec. I'm going to head downstairs." She got halfway down, and at that point, you could see the door into the ground level and let out an audible gasp. "What is it?" I offered, with a very low, deliberate voice, and she said, "Are you expecting anyone to join us this afternoon?" We both said no. That was just going to be us. She slowly came back up the stairs and told us that there was the silhouette of a very large man in the entrance door to the 2nd floor when she went to check the noise. We agreed that it was likely proven by science and proceeded to the basement level. Now, as we left the upstairs, every step down seemed to darken the environment. It gets dark early in New England in the fall, but we still should have had much more daylight than we were being shown. The girls were almost to the bottom of the 3rd level stair. I fumbled for the handrail in the dimming light when it started. A low, guttural sound. Quote, "Can you girls hear that?" I squeamishly squeaked. "What do you..." The agent couldn't finish her sentence, and it was overpowering growl at that point. More than one could take. And then the growl. I have heard a lion growl. It's a life-altering experience. We all gathered hands. It was quite clear that this house did not want us. We burst through the walkout basement and into the crisp autumn air.
Oh my God.
That'd be a nope. Good choice not just not buying that house.
Yeah, no.
Because if that's on day 1, I could only imagine what follows afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
that's a big nope from me.
Dude, and that's
wow.
Like, imagine, like, that's your paranormal experience, and you're not even living there.
Right.
You haven't lived there.
You're just going to walk around an empty house. Like,
that is
what?
Insane.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, it's been so long.
Creepy story.
I would be terrified. I think I'd be like, we'll just rent. We'll just rent
forever.
We're done. We're done looking. But we are going to move on to the Halloween topic. And this year, we picked something that has so many ties to so many different things.
Yeah, yes.
That it's crazy. I'm talking ties to the Salem witch trial, We're talking ties to my family somehow.
Yeah.
Which I didn't even know that going into it.
Mm-hmm.
The tie to the Salem witch trial is very, it's a very big tie. So.
Wow.
We are going to be talking about Danvers State Hospital.
I've definitely heard of this one.
Yeah, I'm sure you have.
Mm-hmm.
It is often referred to as Hell House on the Hill or Castle on the Hill. It has a bunch of names.
Wow.
Most of that it will come later when you read, because you're going to start coming back into play on these videos.
I am.
It's going to be nice. And I can be like, ooh,
I apologize in advance for all the editing you're going to have to do.
That's okay. But let's get into this. We have quite a bit of history to get through.
Okay, let's do it.
Now, Danvers is a town in Essex County, Massachusetts, located on the Danvers River near the northeastern coast of Massachusetts. The suburb is a fairly short ride from Boston and is also in close proximity to the beaches of Gloucester, Ipswich, and Revere. You would have never been able to read that.
I know all of those.
You know Gloucester?
Gloucester, yeah.
You've been with me for a while.
Yeah, I have.
Originally known as Salem Village, the town is most widely known for its association with the 1692 Salem witch trials. It was also the site of Danvers State Hospital, one of the state's 19th century psychiatric hospitals. The area was long settled by indigenous cultures of Native Americans. In the historic period, the Massachusetts, a tribe of Pequot language family. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce that.
Okay.
I think it's Pequot.
Pequot? That's
It's either
what it looks
Pequot,
like.
Pequot.
Pequot.
Yep, they dominated the area. The land that is now Danvers was once owned by the Nomkeag branch of the Massachusetts tribe. Now, around 1630, English colonists improved an existing Nomkeag trail as the Old Spanish Road, creating a connection to the main cities of Salem and Boston. Danvers was then permanently settled in 1636 as Salem Village.
1636.
Yeah.
That is
You know,
so long
It's
ago.
New England, it goes way back.
Oh my goodness.
The historical event for which Danvers is best known is, of course, the Salem witch trials of 1692, which began in the home of Reverend Samuel Parris and spread throughout the region. Resident Rebecca Nurse was convicted in a trial for witchcraft and executed along with 19 other innocent victims. The Rebecca Nurse homestead is still standing in Danvers and can be visited as a historical landmark.
Wow. I didn't realize it was still standing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
In 1847, the railroad came to Danvers. The town hall was built in 1855. A street railway was also installed in 1884, originally consisting of 69 horse-drawn trolleys. Now, this system was later converted to electricity. It has been modified and renovated and is still in use.
Wow.
It's still in use.
Wow.
That is, I couldn't imagine being on a trolley that was being pulled by horses.
No.
That just seems dangerous.
Especially now. I don't know. Maybe I'd trust it more than mechanics.
I wonder if horse poop was a problem.
I would assume so.
You know, like getting flung on you. What if you're going fast? I don't know. Now, also in 1855, the southern portion of Danvers broke away to become the town of South Danvers, later renamed Peabody. In 1878, the Danvers State Hospital opened its doors. Now, this was an institution to provide asylum and treatment for the mentally ill. And that's where our story really begins. Danvers State Hospital opened in 1878 as a mental health hospital, serving some 600 patients under its imposing Gothic spires. While it was built with a surprisingly caring and modern attitude to help those with mental illness, by the 1930s the site was crowded, falling into disrepair, and regularly used cruel and inhumane treatments.
Of course they did.
This is... I don't know if I can confidently say that this is the worst hospital we've ever talked about, but it does seem that way.
Oh, God.
I've got some extra stuff to talk about in between some of the stuff that we have, written down here, but there's some other things that went down.
We've covered some gross stuff, so I'm not looking forward to this.
Some bad stuff happened here. Danvers State Hospital was one of many hospitals built in Massachusetts during the Industrial Revolution. Danvers State Hospital began construction in 1874 on Hathorne Hill, where the Salem witch trials judge John Hathorne once lived. The hill is 257 feet high glacial drumline. During the 1800s, the hill was the home of the Dodge Farm, owned by local farmer and Civil War veteran Francis Dodge. In the 1870s, when the Commonwealth of Massachusetts decided to build an additional psychiatric hospital to house the state's growing mentally ill population, it decided on the rural Hathorne Hill as the location and persuaded Dodge to sell his 200-acre farm to the state for $39,542. That's equal to $951,727.64 today.
Wow. But
that's not a lot.
I was just going to say,
yeah, that's not a lot.
Not a lot.
That's not enough.
200-acre farm.
Yeah.
200 acres and less than $1 million.
In Massachusetts, now with the way taxes and stuff are today.
Oh, God.
They would offer you a lot more money than that.
Oh, yeah.
That's not even close to what you would see.
Crazy. Wow.
Now, according to a book by Dr. Thomas Story Kirkbride, a physician and mental health advocate who created an institutional model for mental health hospitals in the 19th century, called, of course, the Kirkbride Plan, the location and surroundings of such hospitals was essential to their success. Now, he wrote, quote, "It is now well established that this class of hospitals should always be located in the country, not within less than 2 miles of a town of considerable size, and they should be easily accessible at all seasons. They should, if possible, be near turnpikes or other good roads, or on the line of a railroad. While 2 or 3 miles from a town might be named as a good distance on the former, the facilities afforded by a railroad might make 10 or 12 miles unobjectable. The building should be in a healthful, pleasant, and fertile district of the country, while the hospital itself should be retired and its privacy fully secured. It is desirable that the views from it should exhibit life in its active forms, and on this account, stirring objects at a little distance are desirable." So they want you to look out over the countryside and see wild animals.
Right. They want you to look out and just see vivacious life outside.
Yeah. So
and being helpful in your mental health and things like that. I get it. And I love that.
He believed that helped. Which I'm sure, I guess to a degree it does.
Absolutely. Could you imagine just staring at empty walls or looking out a window?
Not everybody at this hospital got that treatment.
I would just assume so.
Well, you're going to find out. Now, Kirkbride goes on to say that such hospitals require at least 100 acres of land necessary for farming and gardening, as well as for privacy, exercise, labor, and occupation for the patients, which are, quote, "now recognized as among the most valuable means of treatment." The hospital was designed to house 450 patients suffering from various mental illnesses. When the first patient was admitted on May 13, 1878, the Danvers Lunatic Hospital, as it was originally called, was truly a one-of-a-kind facility. And it really was. It was state-of-the-art. Mm-hmm. Now, the hospital administration refused to use physical restraints on the patients and emphasized curing patients rather than merely hiding them away from the public, according to the Book of Weird U.S. Quote, "When it opened in 1878, Danvers State Hospital was considered a leader in humane treatment. The patient's regimen involved exercise and the creation of elaborate gardens. The patient-run farm produced large harvests that kept the institution's kitchen busy. But some difficult patient populations brought problems with them. A large and unwanted influx of criminals stirred things up. Though the 1886 construction of a hospital for the criminally insane in Bridgewater, Massachusetts, helped stem this tide, so they would send them off."
Yeah. I mean, I get not wanting to separate people and like saying that
you have to.
Not all criminals, deserve to be in jail. Maybe they're just having a mental break, so these are places that they go. But on the other hand, it's really not a great idea. Well, it's really not.
They go on to say that another difficult group to treat were those suffering from intemperance and dipsomania, the 19th century terms for substance abuse, or, quote, "the ancient enemy." I've never heard it called that.
Me either.
As the administrators called it. Now, in addition, mentally handicapped patients mixed in with the general psychiatric population. It was not until around 1980 that they were moved to their own unit. So
what?
Yeah.
Wow.
So they were
That's a long time to not do that.
Yeah. The year I was born.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It took a long time for people to come around to, I guess, how these things should be done. And I don't know. I still don't think they've really
handled them properly either.
Well, it's just
even after the fact.
They haven't figured it out.
Right.
Now, by the early 1880s, overcrowding had already become an issue, with the hospital housing around 626 patients in 1881 and around 788 patients in 1885. As reported in the 1885 annual report of the trustees of the Danvers Lunatic Asylum, quote, "The number of patients sent here has for a considerable time been too large, and the increase continues to exceed all relief from removals. The crowded condition of the hospital was not provided for in its design or construction." So they had way too many people.
Right.
And that
most of these places do.
That number ends up growing. Now, as America was approaching the new century, change was happening everywhere, including the way we address certain groups. And sometime before the turn of the century, the hospital changed its name to the Danvers Insane Hospital, which honestly doesn't sound any better.
That's literally the same thing.
It doesn't sound any better, but we're making progress.
Are we?
Baby steps.
Because it's literally the same thing.
Baby steps.
Oh my God.
Now, by 1901, the number of patients had dramatically increased to 1,137. The following year, the hospital purchased 100 more acres to expand its farm, and in 1903 opened Middleton Colony, an addition that housed 300 long-term female patients down the street from the hospital in Middleton, Mass. Now, in 1909, the Danvers Insane Hospital changed its name yet again to the Danvers State Hospital, and in 1926, an additional 500 beds were added to the hospital. Another 648 beds were added the following year, despite reports of overcrowding at the hospital.
Wow.
Now,
that is a lot of growth.
We're not done.
Oh,
it gets bigger.
Oh, God. Okay.
Now, in 1927, Dr. Clarence Bonner became the superintendent of the hospital. And by the 1930s, the hospital started to suffer from severe overcrowding and a lack of funding. Now, the number of patients grew to over 2,000, while the size of the staff remained relatively the same.
Oh, my God. How is anyone supposed to expect to manage that?
I don't know. But this so this isn't the biggest building we've ever talked about as far as the mental asylums went. It is the biggest land, though. Okay. This is like 500 acres. That's huge.
That's so big.
That's a lot of land. The building itself, I believe, was 73,000 square feet, but it's really small in comparison to other places we've talked about.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But there ended up being, I think it was like somewhere between 8 and 11 buildings.
Wow. That's
which is
a lot.
The same thing they did at Taunton State Hospital.
Taunton State, exactly. It's exactly what popped into my head.
Which Taunton pops up in this somehow. As a result, the quality of care began to deteriorate as well as the overwhelmed staff struggled to control the massive number of patients. Patients were soon subjected to special garments or straitjackets as a means of control.
But I thought they weren't doing restraints.
Exactly. That was, that was the whole point of this hospital, was that they weren't doing stuff like that.
Right.
But now we're into a new superintendent. Now, in 1939, the population of the hospital swelled to an astounding 2,360. A total of 278 people died at the hospital that year.
Oh, that year?
That year.
Oh, my God.
That year.
1 year. 278 people.
Yes.
Oh, that's awful.
That's crazy.
Oh, my God.
Now, in 1941, the Telegraph newspaper reported that a large fire broke out in one of the barns on the hospital grounds and caused one of the greatest traffic jams in Newburyport Turnpike history, when an estimated 10,000 people attempted to reach the hospital because they thought that it was on fire and they wanted to watch it blaze.
Oh, just, we want to watch. We don't want to help.
They wanted to see.
Just gonna watch.
Yeah, they just wanted to check it out, which is not, that's so crazy.
What?
Now, the damage from the fire was actually estimated to be around $60,000. And that is about $1.2 million in today's money. So this barn burning down is worth more money than they paid for all the land.
Oh, my God.
Which doesn't seem right.
No.
That just seems wild.
What? Wait. What?
That just seems wild to me.
Oh my God.
I don't know what happened there. You know what? Mr. Dodge got screwed.
Yeah. What is going on?
I guess when the state comes, though, and I don't know, inflation, I just feel like maybe things were cheaper, so maybe that $900,000 went farther back then. I don't know.
Right.
Now, in 1948, the first lobotomy was performed at the hospital, and in the 1950s, electroshock therapy was introduced. Oh, yeah.
Fun.
Neurology experts often call Danvers, quote, the birthplace of the prefrontal lobotomy. Now, visitors to the hospital during these years reported lobotomy patients just wandering aimlessly, staring blankly, unaware of who they were or what they were.
Yeah, I bet.
That's bad, though. Because even, I don't know, that's extreme for lobotomy patients. Like, they usually, it just like, have you ever seen videos of like what a lobotomy does to somebody? Where it just like, you blank out, but they still know who they are. They know what a person is. But these, whatever they're doing was really wrecking these people.
Now, what they would experience afterwards is, if they didn't die, is everything from, I guess you could say, stupor, confusion, rage. Some of them would just, like I mentioned earlier, be a complete shell of themselves and just be vacant. I mean, it's super, super depressing. So there was a wide variety of symptoms, but they did this to try and to treat things as simple as depression, psychosis that they deemed people had. This was used a lot. But I believe it was the correct number is around 20,000 times or so in the United States alone. This procedure was performed. Absolutely ridiculous. But
in other words, they were doing it wrong.
I mean,
not good.
They were doing it different. Because I don't know if we can...
obviously.
I don't know if we can say they were doing it wrong, because this may have been what they were trying to achieve. So in that case, they were doing it right. I don't know. I just think shoving an ice pick up into your eye to crack up into your brain is just... No matter how you do it, is wrong. There's no right way.
No.
Now, patients were also seen walking the halls naked. Patients lived in their own filth from a severe lack of basic hygiene because of the living conditions. Symptoms were getting worse and people were not being cured. And there was also an extremely high rating of was rampant.
Stop.
Rampant.
Ew.
It was most patient on patient because they weren't keeping the right people away from the right people.
Right.
And there's another story. I believe her name was Maggie or Margaret. I can't remember her name, but a lady died at the hospital. And this is apparently like a known thing because when people would go visit, there was a divot in the floor that would later came out where they knew what it was from. And it was from a lady who died on the floor and was left there for so long.
Stop.
That her decomposing body ate away at the floor.
Stop it.
Yeah.
What?
So that's the kind of stuff that went on here.
I don't even know what to say. Like, really?
There's another...
Well, you think this lady's just sleeping for a week in the same exact... Like, what?
No, they knew she was dead.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do something about it.
I mean,
I bury her. Bruh.
Don't bury her, and we'll get to why that in a few.
Oh, my God.
Now, shock therapy, along with the straitjackets, became the norm at the hospital. Now, electroshock therapy scared patients and was actually often threatened as a way to make patients submit. So they weren't just doing it, they were using it. They were using it in a very negative way.
As a scare tactic.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Now, when they misbehaved, they were put into straitjackets and then left to be forgotten. Now, it was when shock therapy failed to control the population that lobotomy started.
So they just upped the ante for the scare tactics.
Oh, yeah.
To try and control the people because it was just too much and out of hand.
There's a method that was done at this hospital that I've never heard of before. And it was called something like the spread eagle method.
I don't want to know.
So what they would do...
Oh, my God.
is like 4 orderlies would grab a patient and they would tie them to a bed or put them in a bed or a chair or something sitting up. And then 2 orderlies, one would grab one leg, the other one would grab the other, which I don't understand that process of this, but whatever. And they would hold them out so that they could not move, and they would dump water on their face until they were almost dead.
What?
Yeah. That's the therapy.
Therapy, Oh.
So anyways.
Okay, that is disturbing. That is disturbing. I don't like that.
Pretty messed up.
What?
Now, in 1954, Dr. Clarence Bonner retired as superintendent. Now, the Bonner Medical Building was built on the property the following year and was named after Bonner in honor of his service to the hospital, which just blows my mind.
No. Bye, Felicia. You get nothing.
That just blows my mind.
You get nothing.
After all that.
Out of here.
He gets a building.
No.
Now, in 1956, chlorpromazine, whatever, it's Thorazine, was introduced to treat schizophrenia and other psychiatric disorders. By the 1960s, state hospitals had become outdated and unnecessarily due to better psychiatric medications, a more enlightened approach to treating mental illness, and the establishment of a statewide system of community health centers. Now, conditions at the hospital grew worse and worse as the administration's pleas for more funding fell on deaf ears. During the 1970s, the massive building started to decay and crumble from a lack of upkeep, including the steeple, which actually had to be removed entirely.
Oh, that's sad. Those chunks of it are falling off because nobody took care of it properly?
I mean, the building, they just had no funds. They had no funding. Entire wards were closed down, one by one. Inpatients were shipped off to other facilities when the Department of Mental Health began the process of deinstitutionalizing its state hospitals.
The number of psychiatric hospital beds available dropped by 95% between 1955 and 2005, according to the Treatment Advocacy Center. Starting in 1960, as the mental health population in hospitals declined, the number of mentally ill people in jails and prisons shot up. A 2011 Supreme Court case filed against the California Bureau of Prisons revealed that some mentally ill inmates were held in telephone booth-sized solitary cells.
In 1984, the Kirkbride building was placed on the National Register of Historic Places, which awesome, right? No, because somebody goes against that. The following year, a state study determined that the building, quote, although impressive, is neither appropriate for or capable of cost-effective rehabilitation for modern hospital standards, which, fair play, it's super old.
Yep. I mean,
this place does not look like a hospital.
Right. It probably looks like a rundown, gross, falling apart.
No, it looks like a grand castle. This place is beautiful.
Really?
It's amazing.
Oh, my God.
This place is amazing. It looks like it belongs in medieval England or something.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Wow.
Now, the hospital came under scrutiny in 1987 when its administrator, William Bonis, faced criticism after a patient, Ann Houghton, wandered out of the hospital and was found dead the next day just 200 yards from the hospital after suffering a heart attack, according to news reports. Now, other reports began to filter out about the hospital about missing teenage patients. One account states that an upwards of 115 patients had disappeared within just 3 months.
Nope. Wrong. Nope. Somebody go take a look at that. That's ridiculous.
Well, they do. But, I mean, it doesn't really make a difference. It's a state-run institution, so the only people the state have to blame is themselves.
Okay.
Now, the hospital never spoke about it publicly because their closure was imminent. When staff was questioned about where the patients were going, the only answer was, these patients had been assigned to a new doctor.
Well, they should still be there then.
No. Like, they were getting shipped off to state homes and stuff, but that's not what was happening. Okay, but
it's state to state, so answer.
Well, there's a problem.
Answers.
There's a problem.
Please.
Now, the missing patients of Danvers were never found, and it remains a mystery to this day what had actually happened to them. No bodies were recovered, and staff at Danvers remained tight-lipped about it until the doors closed. So nobody ever found out.
Oh, my God.
Bonis left his position at the hospital in January of 1988 when the Massachusetts Department of Mental Health found evidence of lapses in security at the hospital. As a result of that incident and another incident in which a female patient was raped by a male patient in a woman's restroom. Nobody's safe. In 1989, the Kirkbride building was shuttered after the remaining patients were moved to the Bonner Medical Building. In the fall of 1990, the Massachusetts Association of Mental Health published a working paper suggesting that 3 state hospitals, Danvers, Metropolitan, and Northampton, were prime candidates for closing. Now, in February of 1991, Governor Weld appointed a 17-member special commission to study the problem of state-operated hospitals. The commission conducted an inspection of 31 facilities and held 15 hours of public hearings on the matter. In June of 1991, Governor Weld accepted the commission's recommendations to close 9 mental health facilities and public health hospitals within the next 3 years. The closures were a part of Weld administration's goal of privatizing services performed by state agencies. And one of these state hospitals is one that I've been to.
Yeah.
One, not only been to, literally every person in my family on my dad's side and some on the other worked here.
Yeah.
They used to work at this hospital.
So crazy.
I lived on the grounds of one of these schools for a week while my parents were on like a worker strike.
So crazy.
It's weird.
Wow.
Now, the facilities slated for closure were Danvers State Hospital, Northampton State Hospital, Metropolitan State Hospital, the one I was at, which is Paul A. Devers State School, John T. Berry School, Foxborough campus of Wrentham State School, Cushing Hospital, Lakeville Hospital, and Rutland Heights Hospital. Now, under the plan, the remaining patients at Danvers State Hospital were to be moved to Tewksbury Hospital, which had about 200 empty beds. On June 24th, 1992, the last patients were transferred to Tewksbury State Hospital, and the Danvers State Hospital was officially closed. The Danvers State Hospital remained abandoned for 13 years as it continued to fall into disrepair.
Wow.
Now, in 1998, the Danvers State Memorial Committee, a mental health advocacy group composed of former Danvers State Hospital patients, was created to identify the names of the hundreds of former patients buried anonymously in the Danvers State Hospital cemetery.
That's a lot.
Do you understand what I'm saying? They have a field of bodies that they never bothered to give a name to.
Right.
So even if they would have buried the lady who made the indent on the floor,
it wouldn't have mattered.
It wouldn't have mattered.
Oh my God.
Now, by 2002, the committee succeeded in identifying the names of over 3/4 of the patients buried in the cemetery and installed new headstones displaying the names of each patient and erected a memorial to the patients whose graves could not be identified.
Good. I always found it in because other hospitals and stuff or sane asylums or anything, they usually have like an association, like a stick in the ground with like a number. And as bad as that sounds, it's better than this.
No, that's what they did, but nobody ever wrote down who was what number.
What?
So usually in the situation you're talking about where they would do that now, there's a number associated with a person.
Exactly.
There wasn't anything like that here. They just put them in the ground and numbered it. They never bothered to keep a record of who it was.
They were just basically counting bodies. Like,
yes,
this is number 1. This is number 2.
Yeah, exactly. So there was nothing to,
no identification.
Nobody knew who they were.
Right.
In 2005, the hospital was purchased by Avalon Bay Development for $12 million with the plan to turn it into an apartment building. Now, construction started the following year, during which 6 of the original 8 wards of the Kirkbride building were demolished. Remember, it was on the National Register of Historic Places. You're not allowed to do that.
No.
But they did it.
$12 million, by the way. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
That is a jump in price from the land that we started with.
Just wait.
Oh, my God.
The remaining 2 wards and the center building were gutted, leaving only the building's facade. Now, the original steeple, which had been removed in the 1970s, was actually recreated. Construction was delayed in 2007 after a mysterious fire broke out on the property and burned down most of the newly constructed building and some of the construction trailers on site. Avalon Bay finished construction in 2008, and residents began to move in shortly after. Since then, the building's management has been hit with a flood of complaints from tenants about the poor construction quality of the building, according to the website's apartment ratings and the Danvers State Insane Asylum. People were pretty upset.
Yeah.
About the way this place looked.
I bet.
But now today, it's an apartment building today.
Like if you cheaply put something together though, but just for the sake of it.
Okay. In 2014, Avalon Bay sold the building for $108.5 million.
Shut up.
To the DSF Group, which then changed its name to Halstead Danvers and more recently changed its name again to Bradley Danvers. Now, this is where the history portion ends, but this place is no longer a poorly constructed place. They went in, and now it's a very high-tech place where they have like, I forget what it's called, but it's like where you can golf on a big computer screen.
Like the screens.
You don't
and
have
stuff,
to go anywhere.
Wow.
They have all this like high-tech stuff there.
Wow.
And
well,
like,
good for them.
yeah, so the building is incredible.
Wow.
Even now, like it's not the same place. I mean, it is the original facade and everything, but that's it. That's just the front, and it does look pretty much the same as it did back when they built it.
Right.
But the original photographs of this place are every spooky, haunted horror castle you've ever seen in any movie.
Wow.
This place, this is the coolest of all the insane asylums we talked about.
Wow. And I think this is such a great thing to do with a place like this or any of these places, because a lot of them just get torn down, demolished.
I disagree.
Like, why?
Mm-hmm. Because, all right, you believe in the paranormal, obviously. Mm-hmm. How much stuff is going to haunt this place?
Well, that's your fault for moving in there. But like, preserve the history.
Dude, come on. Preserve the history by the state upkeeping the building, and it becomes a place where you can go walk through and see the history of why we don't do this stuff anymore. But remember, before the 1930s, this was a good place.
Right.
Patients were treated very well. It was very like they didn't restrain them. They treated them like they were special. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until after into the 1930s that they started doing all these barbaric things. And there's more stuff. Like I had so much information down that I was so worried this was going to be a 2-hour episode.
Right.
But like they really tortured people here, and the rape was incredible. There was physical abuse. People were dying left and right. They were treated bad.
That's terrifying.
Bad.
Terrifying. It's so scary.
I don't feel like apartments is appropriate for this.
I'm not saying necessarily
I
apartments.
think it should have been preserved and should have been a place, that people could go walk through.
I 100% agree with that. I wasn't necessarily saying apartments, but like, keep these buildings. It's a piece of history.
Well, see, that's what you always upset me about Taunton State Hospital, was that they ended up tearing it down.
Right.
And that place was incredible.
It was beautiful.
I got to see it before they tore it down, and it was awesome. And I just feel like we're not going to have any of that stuff left to look back on.
Right.
It's all going to be gone. It's all going to be just a memory, which I mean, I guess eventually it will be, but it didn't have to be now.
Yeah.
England still has castles up from 600 years ago.
Exactly.
Why can't we keep a few of these institutions that we talk about, like this one, are actually referred to the castles of America.
Okay. I could totally see that.
I believe that was a statement by Kirkbride, who actually said that insane asylums were the castles of America.
I could totally see that.
And they looked like castles.
Yeah.
They're incredible. The architecture it's next level.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't have a lot of that here. We don't have those castles like in England and Ireland and Scotland and all that people can go see and stuff. Like, we don't have that here.
No.
So
this is our equivalent.
Exactly.
This is what we have here.
That's what I'm saying. Save the history.
Save the history. But that was the history, and now it's time to get into the mystery. And
My turn.
For those of you who are new because of video, this is how we used to do things. This isn't new. But
yes.
It's just coming back because your boy's tired of reading.
Everyone loves a good horror story. And when it comes to talking about Danvers State Hospital, you'll enjoy more than your fill of ghost stories. Also known as the State Lunatic Hospital at Danvers, the Danvers Lunatic Asylum, and the Danvers State Insane Asylum. This former insane asylum now houses fully renovated apartments. However, the building's sinister past makes this one of the most infamous, haunted former asylums in America. Wow.
It's been referred to as the most, I know we hear this a lot, it is referred to as the most haunted asylum in America.
Right.
But this is the basis for a lot of the creepy asylums that you've ever seen or heard of.
I'm sure.
Is based on this place.
Right. The castle on the hill, the place on the hill, the haunted castle, the Witch's Castle, the Kirkbride, the massive red brick Gothic landmark that stands atop Hawthorne Hill, has been given many names during the past 129 years. These names stand as evidence of the special place the building Danvers State Hospital holds in the minds and mythology of the people of Danvers, the North Shore, and beyond. A total of 278 people reportedly died at the hospital in 1 year. Danvers is now known as the birthplace of the prefrontal lobotomy, and lobotomies left patients in a hellish daze wandering the halls.
I couldn't imagine.
I couldn't imagine. I could not either.
Getting a spike. That the lobotomy scares me more than anything.
Well, you don't like things that revolve around
I hate
eyeballs.
eye stuff. Eye stuff freaks me out, man.
It's bad. It's so bad.
I hate it. It's so gross.
Horror novelist H.P. Lovecraft even used Danvers as the inspiration for his Arkham Sanitorium. Sound familiar? Arkham Asylum was the backdrop in which DC Comics' Batman's ultra-psychotic villains come from.
It is the inspiration for the Arkham Asylum. How rad.
I know.
I don't know why I wore my Marvel hoodie. I have some Batman stuff.
You missed opportunity.
Okay, so that is a huge reference, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Arkham Asylum is based off of Danvers State Hospital. That's so crazy. It is that wild of a place in history that It is Arkham Asylum.
That's crazy. Before most of the hospital was demolished in 2006, Hollywood used some of Danvers Hospital and many of its creepy and existing equipment as props to make the cult classic film Session 9. Session 9 is a 2001 psychological horror film directed by Brad Anderson and stars David Caruso, Peter Mullen, Stephen...
I think it's Gavidon?
Gavidon?
I think so. I'm not quite sure either.
Paul Guilfoyle, Josh Lucas, and Brendan Sexton.
Say what now? No, I'm just kidding.
It tells the story of a work crew assigned to remove asbestos from an abandoned mental institution.
So do you know who David Caruso is?
I think so. The name sounds really
Do you remember
familiar.
the show NYPD Blue?
Yeah.
He was the original. He's that redheaded dude that was on there in the beginning.
Okay.
That's David Caruso. So
Gotcha.
I used to like that show when it came out. I want to see this movie. I've never seen it.
Yeah, I've never even heard of it. Have you?
No.
Yeah. I mean, 2001. That's good 23 years ago. So.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
God, we're getting old.
I know. It doesn't take long for the crew's boss to hear voices and have one of his men go missing. As you can imagine, they don't find him in their truck outside. When asked about filming Session 9 at the Danvers State Hospital, David Caruso said, quote, "It was a place you never got comfortable in. It wasn't like day 3 and we were throwing water balloons because it was so much fun to be there. It was always scary. You can really feel the pain of the people that went through at Danvers. It's a rough environment. It's not fun. It's on the film. They don't have to dress any sets or anything. All of that stuff was sitting there. The federal government walked away from it about 30 years ago. It was a terrifying location."
So apparently the movie was filmed and they didn't do anything to the place. They just filmed.
Walked in and filmed.
They just filmed movies. So everything that is in the movie is the hospital.
That's so crazy.
There was nothing added. I don't know. Because every Hollywood movie you ever see, there's so much added to it.
Right.
But not this one.
That's insane.
And I watched the trailer, and I got to be honest, it looks really creepy.
Really?
Yeah, it actually looks really good.
Oh, wow. Many believe it to be haunted. Others are simply intrigued by its history. Its unusual architecture and grand scale, with its fortress-like central tower section and 8 branching wings. An internet search of Danvers State Hospital quickly yields a long series of websites. The hospital grounds holds a prominent place in the online pages of the New England area paranormal research groups. It is also a staple in many websites dedicated to urban exploration. a type of subculture dedicated to sneaking into abandoned facilities.
Which was a big no-no here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure. The building has long been a favorite target of area youth, many of whom travel there seeking a good scare in its rotting hallways or in the deserted tunnels running through and underneath the hospital grounds. The only remnants of the horrid practices here are 2 cemeteries filled with 770 bodies. Visitors to the hospital report screaming, banging, and crying. The cemeteries are also hotbeds of paranormal activity, in which apparitions are common. And I bet they are. Those
honestly,
people had no rest ever.
I found it in a few articles, but I honestly, I don't want to talk about it too much because some of it's at the end, but even though there is a lot about this hospital, it's mostly articles.
Okay, that's fair.
So I'll have to let into what I mean by that at the end.
I think I get it.
Yeah, you probably do.
Yeah. Visitors to the open hospital reported patients walking aimlessly in the halls or staring vacantly at the walls. When it was already abandoned, people who have gone to the hospital have stated hearing disembodied voices, wails, and patients asking for help and attention. The torture and abuse that flowed freely during the hospital's operation have yet to erase the horror brought onto the patients there. Apparitions of former patients have been seen, and there is a very eerie atmosphere on the grounds, too. The building itself was always guarded to stop avid ghost hunters from entering, and the only one group to this day that has ever been granted access to it at night.
There's only ever been one group that's been allowed to investigate here.
That's wild to me.
25.
That's crazy.
It's 25 years, and one group alone has had the privilege of investigating there at night.
How lucky. How lucky are they?
Well, you could say, how I don't know how many apartments are there, but all those people get to investigate every night.
That's very true.
So, hey.
Very true. Danvers was never a ghost hunting hotbed because the site is close to the public. Many paranormal investigators have tried to sneak into the grounds, but they got arrested before entering. The state of Massachusetts and the community police routinely patrolled the grounds. Over 120 ghost hunters have tried and failed to get access to the site. However, a few of them did succeed during the day.
And I also want to point out, I don't remember if I put it in here, but the National Guard was actually brought in here to guard this place because it was
what?
It was that bad that they couldn't keep people out.
Wow.
So when National Guard they were bringing National Guard in to move patients out, and at the same time they were staying behind to keep people from going in.
Wow.
Because it was becoming that popular.
That's crazy. You gotta call in the National Guard.
No other place we've talked about has had that.
No.
So that's wild.
That's insane. Only one team, the Rhode Island Paranormal Research Group, has investigated at night in the last 25 years. They haven't released any evidence of that night, nor have they ever spoken about it.
That upsets me.
That's so bad.
Bro,
like, why?
Let us know what happened. Like, come on.
Oh, that's crazy. Other visitors have reported seeing deep black shadows flitting about the property. Others claim to have seen a grayish mist moving around and following people who come to the site. These mists are often believed to be the dazed spirits of the lobotomy patients that died here. Geraldine Levassier's family lived on the grounds of the hospital and would hear footsteps in the second-story hallways of their home when nobody was upstairs. Doors would open and close. Lights would flicker on and off. Levassier grew up on the grounds of Danvers State Hospital in a house lent to her father, hospital administrator Gerald Richards. Now 52, Levassier clearly remembers one day in her youth when her sister and brother were playing upstairs in the attic and saw an apparition of an older woman angrily scowling at them. They were too scared to move until their mother ordered them to come down, she said. Levassier was in high school when her bed covers were pulled completely off her bed. Nobody was in the room. She was petrified, but said she always had the feeling that no real harm would come to her. Today, Lavoisier works as an assistant to the chief nurse executive at Spalding Rehabilitation Hospital, a career she said she was inspired by her father's teaching about the importance of caring for the mentally ill and sick, as well as to the experiences she had growing up at the mental hospital. While Lavoisier generally had a good experience there, she admitted that there were some unsavory practices that took place, most often the result of misguided efforts to treat patients, such as primitive electric shock therapy and hydrotherapy.
Oh, and hydrotherapy.
So bad.
They drowned people.
So bad.
So look, you remember the tunnels that we were talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So originally those tunnels were put into place because, do you remember in the beginning where we talked about the Kirkbride plan about, it's like this nice place and it overlooks the countryside?
Right. Yeah.
Well, the original the tunnels were originally put in place to put the problematic patients, to keep them out of the way.
Just like
to keep
in underground tunnels? Like you can't think of a better thing to do?
To keep up appearances.
Bruh.
Yeah.
Like, you could have just made it like a basement instead of a tunnel to stick people in.
Out of sight, out of mind. But Lavoisier, she is one of the only people that I can find direct stories from.
Okay.
Because this place was never a hotbed for ghost hunting. So people...
Right. Nobody
got a chance.
Yeah.
And Rhode Island Paranormal Institution of America, whatever you're called, please, man, let us know what happened there. I have to know. I feel like it was something good because that's why they're not talking about it. But
right. But why wouldn't you want to share that? That's what you do.
No, I mean, at the core, not necessarily. Yes, you're an investigator. TV makes us think that it's supposed to be for all of us, but it's for the group.
Oh, come on.
Because before TV shows, there were paranormal groups. They were just collecting the data for themselves.
Right.
Not for us. So, I mean, we're not entitled to it, but I mean, we would like to know.
But I definitely want to know.
Yeah.
So Lavoisier said, quote, "If you think back to the beginnings of medical science and the things done to people, not because they thought they were doing bad, but because they were trying to do right, you have to wonder, did people think they were being tortured?" End quote. She believes it is the tortured spirits that knew Danvers State as their home that linger on the grounds. Only near the closing of the asylum was it discovered to have a small underground tunnels connecting the buildings. Historians date these tunnels to the original construction of the hospital, meaning they were put there and under the direction of the asylum's first administrator, Thomas Kirkbride, who was notorious in his methodology. His tunnels have thought to have been constructed so as to keep the more violent patients completely out of sight, thus giving the asylum's upper levels a more sedate and dignified look, and preached to his infamous Kirkbride plan that he was referred to as, quote, "a special apparatus for the care of lunacy," end quote. It should come as no surprise that ghost hunters and former hospital workers alike claim to have seen Thomas Kirkbride's ghost floating through the underground tunnels.
This is the first place we've ever talked about being a Kirkbride building where Kirkbride's ghost has been seen. We have never...
It is.
This has never once come up at any place we've ever talked about that it has been a Kirkbride building.
Oh my God. I've never even thought about that.
When I read this originally, it blew my mind because we've never heard anybody claim to see Thomas Kirkbride. So ultimately, this Halloween episode, if there is a building that could be considered the Kirkbride building, it is this building.
Wow. Oh my God. I never even put that together.
It's wild.
That's so crazy. There are unfortunately no reviews for this location, as the hospital never permitted visitors after its closing. No one that we could find has posted anything online of an experience or even just a story of exploring. So, this is the end of the story. The only remnants of the horrific practices that went on at Danvers State Hospital are the gravestones in 2 nearby cemeteries, which contain 770 bodies. Some headstones only have numbers as opposed to the names. Even in death, administrators at Danvers State Hospital did not dignify their patients.
Stars so far apart, emotions tear my heart.
Yep, even in death.
That's so rude.
Not only
That's so rude.
did they torture them in life, but even after they killed them, they wouldn't give them a name.
That is so rude. That's so bad. Like, what? Why?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I don't even get, like, the numbers always seem to me to be
Listen, even
not great.
even Ted Bundy and Charles Manson have marked graves.
This is true.
These people did nothing wrong but be born into a world that didn't understand them or understand how to help them. It is not their fault that they, were the way they were.
Right.
They deserved all the same respect that every other person is afforded in life.
100%.
And even, all right, let's say you can't even do that. The least you can do is have a place where people can go visit them by name.
Yeah.
That bothers me. Right? Like, we read a lot of terrible things that happen at these hospitals, so none of that really surprises me.
No.
But when we see something like that where the bodies are just so disregarded in a way to where they can't even give them a name, you can't even give them a headstone after you tortured them. Mm-hmm. It really bothers me.
It's so bad. It is so
It's
disrespectful.
disgusting.
It's so disrespectful to the people who went there for help. They went there for help.
Well, they didn't. No, you can't even say that. They didn't go there for help. They were put there by other people who didn't know how to help them.
Put there to get help.
These are helpless people who can't take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. I don't. It bothers me. It really bothers me. My whole family basically has worked at one of these state hospitals, and now the one that, as far as I know, we're going to find out soon, because I did find out there's some paranormal claims there, so we are going to do an episode on it.
Ooh.
But as far as I know, nothing like that ever went down there. But now that I think about it, I mean, Taunton State was just right up the road, so maybe there was, and I just don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe my family didn't tell me, but my family's been working.
Because you were a lot younger, too.
I was like a baby.
Yeah, you were little. And
I mean, I had been there. I think the last time I went there was, I don't know, I was like 10, 12-ish, somewhere in there. My dad worked there. My mom and dad met there.
Yeah.
My grandmother set them up. I never told you that.
No.
But yeah, my grandmother was like the head nurse or something.
Oh, my gosh.
And
I had no idea.
yeah, wild.
God, 13 years. You'd think you'd tell me things.
I tell you all kinds of stuff. But Danvers State Hospital, I mean, it is just, if you're watching, you've seen the picture of this place. This place is one of the coolest looking American asylums I've ever seen.
That's so crazy.
It looks like a bat wing, kind of like, I guess, comparable to like Waverly, sort of. I mean, Waverly's more like a crescent shape. I don't know. But it's beautiful. This is a castle of America.
Wow.
And it is so unfortunate that they tore it down. I mean, you can go see the front of it. You can still touch the original bricks in the front.
Right.
But everything else is different. But I'm just glad that now that, a different company bought it, and it seems to be a much nicer place to live. But all this had to come to this point where I have to ask you the question. Is it real? Do you think that, I guess I can't really ask you if you think the hospital is haunted, because most of it's gone, but do you think there's at least something going on in the area, at the place?
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Absolutely. Again, we do this all the time with asylums and things like that. The amount of pain and anguish that a lot of these people were endured and given to endure here at these kind of places, again, leaves an impression on the land.
And on the floor if you leave their body there for long enough.
Stop. I was going to say that.
You got to be quicker.
Stop.
You got to be faster.
But yes, absolutely. I do. I mean, 770 unmarked graves, just the collective of everything. Yes, I absolutely believe that this place is haunted. This area, these grounds, all of it. So what about you, babe?
Yeah, I think it's haunted.
Yeah.
I just couldn't see it in a world. If paranormal stuff exists, I couldn't even begin to think that in a world where it does, that this something is not here.
Right.
These people were treated so bad. I mean, I'm sure if these are the things we know about, what are some of the things we don't know about? You know, what are other things? Because if orderlies were openly known to like lay on your limbs and spread you eagle and then basically drown you to death, and we know that happened, what are the things that went on that we didn't know about? And that's what I always think about. So if energy and like fear and torture and all that stuff leave an impression, there's not much more of an impression you could leave on this place. So
exactly.
I do think it's haunted.
Me too.
So bless you people living there. I don't know how you do it. I'm sure people there have experienced something. Yeah. Because it's still the original front.
Right.
Yeah, so
it's still the land.
But that means for Halloween that this place is gonna get
the big old seal of approval.
And that is Danvers State Hospital, which is going to end up leading into, we are going to do Paul A. Dever School.
Ooh, cool.
I don't know how much is available on it, so it might be like a double header episode where we do 2 locations in one.
Okay, we've done one of those.
It just depends, but I can ask the people who work there if anything ever happened.
Exactly.
Because I know at least off the top of my head, probably 7 people that work there. Mm-hmm. So we'll see, but yeah, this is it, man. Halloween, another year.
Another Halloween. My favorite time of year. I love this time of year.
I mean, you would think it'd be mine, but it's really not.
I know.
I'm a Christmas guy. I love Christmas.
I love the spooks.
I like the family-ness of Christmas.
I do too, but there's family-ness in Halloween too.
Is there?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, there's candy. I like the candy aspect of it.
Exactly.
I like
sharing candy as a family and looking for the razor blades.
I enjoy the fact that my children are small enough that I can still convince them that they owe me some candy for walking them around.
Dad tax.
Yeah, you're right. So this is where this one ends. And where can they find us?
They can find us on Instagram at @forthebooze_podcast and on Facebook at For the Booze.
That's right. And you can also find us on X at For the Booze, right here on YouTube at For the Booze. And you can also find us over on TikTok at For the Booze.
That's right.
And don't forget, forthebooze12@gmail.com if you would like to have your story read on the show, like Mr. Eric Belial.
Yes.
Great story. Thank you again for sending it in,
so much. And thank you.
With all that, it is now time to thank our Patreons.
Our beautiful Patreon people.
Our Patreons, which you can find over on Patreon at /forthebooze_podcast.
Yes.
Now, first off, we talk about our decision maker tier, which is, I don't know how else I know a lot of people say this and they probably don't mean it, but I really do feel like we've connected with all of our Patreons.
Absolutely.
Because we talk to all of them.
We talk a lot.
So like they're all great. So I hate to be like, these ones are better than this one, because they're not. They're all equal. But the decision makers are Jen, top tier Kim.
That's
I'm
right.
never changing it. We have Tina, the murderous Madonna, which I'm going to have to change after Halloween because it's going to sound silly saying that during Christmas. And we have Joe, Monster Mash Mattern.
That's right.
The Monster Mash. And then in our producer level, we have, Terry O'Donnell.
That's right.
You know what, Terry? Oh my gosh, it's a ghost. You've heard me say it before, O'Donnell. But we'll call you Terry because you told me to a while ago and I keep forgetting. And we have Eric, the Beast of Boleskine. Belial. Just came up with that one. I like that. It's the second time today that I've said Beast of Boleskine for some reason. And,
stuck in your head.
Yeah. So thank you guys. As always,
thank you.
You know how much we appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you.
And we will see you here in just a few short minutes on Behind the Booze.
Yeah, that's right. We have to go record that.
Yeah.
We missed last week, but our kids have been on. We have fall break here, which is just something I've never heard of before.
Yeah, it's weird. It's
something we did not experience on the East Coast, but out here it's a thing where kids are off for like a period of time during the fall, which I don't get, but whatever. But I guess that's it.
It is.
And I was going to say where can they find us, but we did that.
I knew that's
already.
what you were about to say. I was like, wait,
you know
we already
what?
did that.
Take us out, Megan.
Well, thank you everybody so much for listening, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye. Don't check in to the hospital, whatever you do.
Happy Halloween.